It was him, and he went outside of our marriage bed to find satisfaction and ended up doing it with a woman who didn't struggle with infertility. His one-night stand mistake had gotten her pregnant, and I somehow felt like it was my fault. But I thought adultery was a bigger sin than choosing peace and happiness. I was met with shame and judgment from church members who faulted me for not being willing to forgive him for his transgressions and accept his new offspring as another member of God's kingdom. Welcome back to Delve Deck Stories. Today we have some turning point and life-changing moment stories. Our first story is from Maggie, and it's what life experience drastically changed your thinking on something from the original deck. Getting dumped was the reality check I needed to get sober. When I was in college, I was a total party girl. I went out most nights of the week and had a large group of friends. One of those friends was Jacob. Jacob also loved going out and drinking, and we would frequently hook up with each other. Then, as we got closer, we started dating. This didn't stop our wild nights, though. We frequently referred to ourselves as the cool couple and never missed a party.
That's really cool. So lame. I thought it would be like the goblins or like something. I don't know.
After we graduated college, we moved in together and both got jobs. Jacob and I would still go out with our friends, but I could tell he was starting to slow down. This didn't really bother me as long as he wasn't getting in the way of my fun. After about 2 years of this, Jacob was really only going out on a Friday or Saturday night and staying home the rest of the week. Meanwhile, I still had my friends who loved to go out dancing any night of the week. And the things that used to never bother Jacob seemed to be making him angry. He'd make comments about me coming home at 4 a.m. on a weeknight or still seeming drunk from the night before.
That's
reasonable.
valid.
Is he getting more, like, it doesn't sound like it's really his fault in the situation. When I was like 4 a.m. in the week, they're like, yeah, I would be fucking pissed too.
Well, and it's like waking you up, probably.
Yeah.
You're not in college anymore.
Right.
And also, like, during the week, am I spending time with you? Because it
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
like you're
like, where
out
are you?
partying, hanging out with friends.
Also, on weekends, I would start drinking around noon. During the work week, I'd always have a drink with lunch to stave off the hangover, and I would get a bottle or two of wine on my way home, even if I didn't have plans. I think deep down, I knew this was becoming a problem, but I tried to write it all off. I'm in my 20s. I'm supposed to be having fun, I would tell myself.
Canon event. So real.
When she says I'm in my 20s, is she like 29? She's like, I'm in my 20s.
No, I think it's like right after college.
Well, it's like after
22.
they've been together for 2 years post-college.
So 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's usually right about when the consequences
You start
of
to
your
be like,
actions start to be like,
maybe I should get it together.
Yeah.
yeah.
As Jacob's comments became more and more direct, I began hiding what I was up to, opting to go out with coworkers after work rather than come home. And if he asked if I was drunk, I would tell him I only had one drink, but I know he could tell I was lying. As this carried on and I got older, many of my friends began to grow up and drink responsibly, but but I didn't seem to be able to do that. So I would find new friends who were willing to binge drink with me. Then I got my first DUI. The look on Jacob's face when he came to pick me up from the drunk holding cell was humiliating. Are you ready to admit you have a problem? He asked me. This was an argument we had been having for a few years at this point, with me always using the excuse that I had a job and I was just trying to blow off steam. But now I agreed that I might need to stop drinking. A few days later, Jacob sat me down and told me that he had been thinking about it and talking with his therapist, and that he needed me to commit to being sober if our relationship was going to last. I'm worried about you and your health, he told me. I want us to have a future together, but I'm not sure if I see that happening anymore. We had been together for 8 years when this happened, and I was horrified. This feels like a sunk cost fallacy kind of moment. You're like, well, we've been together this long. I'm just going to keep sticking it out.
Might as well.
Jacob had been my first love. I wanted nothing more than to grow old with him. Even if I was off the deep end, he was a rock that I could hold on to. I knew I was pushing him away and hated myself for it. I agreed that I would get sober and attend AA meetings, which I did for about 3 weeks. Then the hiding started again. I would drink whenever Jacob wasn't around and pretend it wasn't happening. What's one little drink? I'd tell myself, knowing it was about to be 7.
And I'm sure he knew every time she drank.
Yeah.
It's like, I can smell it. I can tell.
The demeanor.
The final straw happened 5 months after I had promised Jacob I would get sober. I got another DUI and had my license suspended. He confronted me about the lying and I confessed to everything. What was I supposed to do? I was caught red-handed. He told me he could no longer be with me and I begged him to stay, but he said he was at a point in his life where he wanted to think about his future and starting a family, and that he no longer thought that I fit into the future he wanted. It was one of the most painful conversations of my life. I spiraled into a dark place for about 2 months and lost my job. When I moved back in with my parents, I finally accepted that this was rock bottom. I had lost the love of my life, my job, my license, and most of my friends to alcohol. It was the kick in the butt I needed to finally take sobriety seriously. I am so happy to say that I have now been sober for 6 years. Every day is a journey, and I still have to work at it sometimes, but I think Jacob leaving me was the catalyst I needed to get my life together.
Kind of the kindest thing he could do as well.
Yeah, it was best for everybody in this situation.
Yeah.
He was a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, and
yeah.
Glad that you got help. And it's just one of those things where I feel like both people are in this awkward, like, I love you, and it kind of blurs the lines of what you know is like, for my own health, I need this to end.
Yes.
You know? And when you're young, you just don't know that.
And it's so easy to stick around in an unhealthy relationship,
Right. Especially
in general, but
right.
especially when you're younger.
Yeah, and when you've got the other person that, again, is your only love, and they're like, I'll change, I'll be better, and then you're like, I want to see that happen. I'll give you another chance. I'll give you another chance. And then you're like, you're not doing anyone any good here.
Our next story is from Anonymous, and it's what life experience drastically changed your thinking on something from the original deck. Marital issues helped my sexuality and expression. I think a lot of girls are born hearing that the most magical day of their lives would be marrying the man of their dreams. And being raised in the LDS Church, Mormonism for those who don't know, I always hoped and prayed that I would meet my perfect husband right after his mission, and we would get married and have many, many children to satisfy the temple. I was married by the time I was 19 to someone I had grown up with in the church my entire life. At the beginning, our relationship was the picture of Mormon perfectionism, church on Sundays, scripture daily, and of course, we were hoping for a baby, followed by many more. We were a year into our marriage and I was having infertility struggles. I couldn't get pregnant and there was definitely some shameful dialogue expressed by my husband that I was doing something wrong.
Ew.
Don't like that. I wasn't praying enough, etc., etc.
Because that's what actually fixes every problem.
Yeah.
Prayer.
That's what makes your
Always
uterus
prayer.
work. Thoughts and prayers, babe.
Well, I fell deeper into the teachings and prayed so hard I thought my eyes would melt out of my head, all the while blaming myself. I only had one person to confide in that wasn't closely tied to the LDS Church and always managed to give me great advice. My best friend in high school, Mary, who went by M, was an out and very proud lesbian, and she always told me that I could do better than a husband who used me as an emotional punching bag. Turns out I wasn't the one who was lacking with my faith. It was him, and he went outside of our marriage bed to find satisfaction and ended up doing it with a woman who didn't struggle with infertility. His one-night stand mistake had gotten her pregnant, and I somehow felt like it was my fault. Em was my backbone, and she encouraged me to seek a divorce even though it was highly frowned upon in our faith. But I thought adultery was a bigger sin than choosing peace and happiness. Yeah, just in life, not even in the church. I entered the loneliest period of my life and felt I had no one but M to comfort me. I was met with shame and judgment from church members who faulted me for not being willing to forgive him for his transgressions and accept his new offspring as another member of God's kingdom.
I would just start.
Sure, like, yes, that's not the child's fault, but, like, you don't have to accept any of this.
Yeah. I, as the storyteller in this, I would just start spreading rumors about the guy and be like, oh, yeah, now he's got all these STDs, you know?
And that's how you handle things maturely.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, dude, he's got full-blown chlamydia. It's crazy. You know? I mean, you might as well just pile on. If you're
Just
going
start telling people that child is Satan.
Yeah.
Incarnate.
It's the Antichrist.
I mean,
Yeah.
that'll get him.
M told me this was all bullshit. We were constantly together, and one day she took me to a bar. The first one I'd ever been to, as alcohol is also frowned upon in the Mormon church. I was 2 tequila sodas in, having the time of my life with M, and I began to see her in a different light. Her long hair was so glossy, and her lips looked so full and incredibly kissable. I had never had these types of thoughts towards a woman before in my life, and the liquid courage had me leaning in to kiss M by the end of the night. Knowing I was in a vulnerable position, she rejected me, which hurt in the moment, but she told me that she did indeed have feelings for me, but she wanted our first kiss to be one I chose sober and not something I did out of drunken desperation.
Respect.
Yeah, and that's
Look
called
how
consent.
easy it is. Look how easy it is. I didn't know how to unpack the realization that I was romantically attracted to not only my best friend, but to women. I tried coming to my bishop with this moral dilemma, but was told I needed to pray more and ask God to forgive me for these homosexual thoughts. I hate religion. Okay. This was when I realized that I couldn't do that. I couldn't deny the one thing that had made me feel whole in this last tumultuous year of my life. The church had condemned me for my husband cheating, and all of my friends judged me for leaving. The only person who hadn't was someone that the church considered horrible and evil for her sexuality, and that was not a belief I could stand behind. I called M shortly after having the discussion with my bishop and shared my feelings with her, my romantic desires to explore whatever this was blossoming into between us, and that I wasn't sure how to do that with my religion. Does your religion make you feel good? She asked me. No, but I also don't want to go to hell, was pretty much all I could think to say. Well, that doesn't sound like a life you want. It sounds like fear-based religious control. And she was right. I didn't want to be defined by the religion I was born into, especially when that religion had done nothing but shun me during one of the most difficult and transformative periods of my life. I stopped going to church, telling myself it would just be for a month to see how I felt and what my gut was telling me. Em and I went on our first official date during that month, and it was the first time I felt butterflies, excitement, hope, and all the other ushy-gushy things that happen when you fall in love.
Oh, I love love.
At the end of that month, I knew the LDS church was not my home anymore, and it certainly wasn't my faith. I left the church and let myself fall head over heels in love with my best friend. We are now happily married, and she has helped me unpack and relearn so much of my religious trauma. I never thought I'd say it, but my ex-husband cheating on me brought me to the love of my life, and I would still be living in a fear-based lie had it not been for this horrible dark period of my life. Thank you to M, and thank you to myself for being willing to turn my life into one I was proud to lead. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's like a terrible thing to experience and go through, but you gotta go through the darkness to find the light or something.
The only way out is through.
Religion is a terrible thing. Most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. I mean, just imagine how
organized religion.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine how fun Mike Pence could be if he wasn't so religious.
Oh, yeah.
That guy would let
Seems
loose.
Like a cool guy.
Yeah, that's what I think when I look at Mike Pence. Not about the fact that his ears make me think of a goblin.
Goblin couple.
Couples! Gabupples, if you will. Okay.
And he's like, okay.
Mikey.
A little goblin man.
So we may have a weird kink in the couch with us today, and it's goblins.
Our next story is from Anonymous, and it's what life experience drastically changed your thinking on something from the original deck. My teacher saved my life and got me a diagnosis.
We love educators.
Yes. When I was in high school, I was incredibly suicidal. I had a hard time doing any schoolwork, and my parents constantly called me lazy, undedicated, and sometimes useless. They were both in the military before having me and had a rather rigid way of handling obedience. I was truly struggling with the desire to live and kept getting stuck in this paralyzing cycle, thinking of everything I would need to do in order to be perfect to them. But I remained frozen and unable to do anything. One night, I decided that the world would be a better place without me, and I tried to take my own life. When I woke up the next morning, I was so unbelievably disappointed with myself. I couldn't even do this right. And to make matters worse, my parents were angry at me for sleeping past my alarm and being late to school. They didn't know that my sleeping in was drug-induced and refused to let me stay home despite the lethargy in my body. I was silent on the way to school, listening to another lecture on how I'd have no future unless I stopped feeling sorry for myself and woke up. I assumed I looked normal and no one would suspect a thing. I planned to try again tonight to self-exit from the world. I stepped into my English class and my teacher, Miss Rachel's, gave me an odd look. I assumed that she knew I was a disappointment and her look was of exasperation. She asked me to stay after class and I thought I had to prepare for another lecture. Instead, she simply asked if I was okay. "Of course, I'm fine," I said. "Len, I know that you're not. I've seen that look in someone's eyes before, and I'm afraid to let you walk out of this classroom today because I'm not sure I'll see you in it tomorrow." Somehow, this acknowledgement that I was seen and that she was taking my pain seriously helped me be honest with what I was struggling with. I told her everything. I even told her that my parents thought I was doing this as some sort of rebellion for not wanting to be in school, and that I was feeling hopeless and like a burden to everyone. "The only burden you are is what you carry against yourself, and I am going to make sure you get the help you need. Come back to my class after school, and I'll take you home." This is like a Miss Honey moment. It's not the exact same thing, but...
Oh, from Matilda?
Yeah. I was like, adopt them. As school ended that day, I accepted the ride Miss Rachel's had offered, unwilling to take the bus and be around so many adolescent voices screaming, as I knew it would only make the cacophony in my head so much worse. As Miss Rachel's dropped me off, I was surprised when she got out of the car too and followed me to my front door. My parents were shocked to see my teacher there and immediately assumed I had done something to get into trouble, and that's why she was there. I was banished to my room, and Miss Rachel's asked my parents to speak with her. I can't say for sure what was said, but the one thing I did hear was Miss Rachel's raising her voice to the point that it made its way past the barriers into my room. "You are going to lose your son if you do not take his pain seriously. I will not lose a student to this. Ask yourselves why you won't listen." After that, I just heard muffled voices going back and forth. Then about an hour later, I heard the front door close and saw Miss Rachel's getting into her car through my window. A few moments later, my parents entered my room with an energy I had never seen them have before. It was regret, shame, and concern. "We spoke to your teacher," my dad started, "and we think it would be a good idea to pull you out of school for a week or two. We want to send you to an inpatient therapy practice." I was terrified but trusted Miss Rachel's, and if my parents were choosing to take her advice, then I figured I should too. I didn't put up a fight. I didn't argue as I packed some clothes and books. I was silent as we loaded the car, and my parents took me to a sterile facility. Only when I saw the facility did I begin to doubt. But my fears were halted once I got inside and saw the bright color and the smiles of other teens there. I was assigned to a therapist. I was allowed to keep my phone. The only thing they asked of me was to show up to my daily sessions and to keep a journal. My therapist, Leanne, was the kindest person I'd ever met, and she made it clear that her only goal was to help me find peace and strength. She was dedicated to making sure that I left this place lighter than when I entered it. After a week of daily sessions, Leanne diagnosed me with ADHD. She helped me to understand that I wasn't lazy or useless, but I was constantly stuck in an ADHD paralysis cycle that made it impossibly hard to do simple tasks. She called it executive dysfunction. They never forced medication on me. She only suggested that perhaps taking some medication would be helpful when it came to accomplishing tasks. She helped me see my purpose, helped me find my strength, and when it was time to leave, I did not want to go. Leanne gave me her business card and offered free sessions for the following months to check in, give me an outlet, and help me build structure around a routine that would use my ADHD for my own good, as opposed to shutting it off and making me feel like I was broken. It's been 10 years since Miss Rachel stepped in, and I can confidently say that I am alive today because of her attention and dedication to students. I actually ended up going to college, something I never thought possible, and I majored in psychology. I'm currently working on getting my teaching license so I can be the Miss Rachels that any of my future students need. I plan to ensure students never feel worthless and always know they have a safe place to land. She changed and saved my life. I am forever thankful. This is why teachers are so important.
Mm-hmm.
We need them.
And we should pay them more.
And we should pay them
so
so
much
much
more.
more. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that your teacher was looking out for you and that some adult was there for you.
Glad your parents put their pride on the side and listened.
Yes.
Because a lot of parents are like, what do you know about my kid? Mm-hmm. Apparently more than you.
I mean, teachers are around them so often, too. Like, a teacher's
See a
frequently
different
going to be a
side.
person, who would see a different side. So listen to teachers.
I'm glad everyone trusted that teacher.
Our next story is from Anonymous, and it's what life experience drastically changed your thinking on something from the original deck. I was red-pilled, and then I lost my job.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I always felt like kind of a loser since I was a kid. I barely graduated high school and spent my late teens floating from low-wage job to low-wage job. I got into consuming a bunch of YouTube videos and podcasts from people like Jordan Peterson under the guise of self-improvement. This is what happens, though.
Who's
They
that?
take people who are
I know.
vulnerable.
The Russell
Like,
Brand, the Joe Rogan, the Andrew
he's in
Tate.
that category.
Oh, is Joe Rogan bad? I don't know anything about Joe Rogan. I just know he's like a dude podcast.
He's.
It's not good. Big red flag.
But all those guys are
Big red
like,
flag.
they identify people who are, trying to figure
Vulnerable.
out themselves, or vulnerable, or even like, oh man, I just want to be like, I just want to go to the gym, and that's a slippery slope. The gym bros are in that same.
Don't go to the gym.
I'm not saying don't go to the gym. I'm saying the
But
gym
like-
bros, the manosphere is like
Yes.
it's like one turn in, and then the algorithm's like, oh, you like this? Then you'll also like this guy who's condescending for everyone,
Right. That's what it is. It's the manosphere stuff. And like men's mental health matters and like is important, and taking care of yourself is important, but it sucks that there is a current pipeline happening that is taking advantage of people who are vulnerable. I got sucked into right-wing culture and was convinced my problems were all because of feminists and women taking the good jobs and trying to act like men. The more I got into this stuff, the more isolated I got. Then I finally got a better paying job at a roofing company. It was the most money I'd ever made and was excited to move out of my mom's house and live on my own. I rented a room in a house with 2 other guys. But instead of becoming friends with them, I found they were rarely home and we never hung out. They already had their own lives and their own friend circles, so I was on my own.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't help.
No.
You're lonely. You're
I've been
watching
in those
more. You're
positions
reading
before.
more.
Yeah,
And all
and
these
that's what,
women are taking
again,
your
people
jobs.
are just like, and all these fucking bitches.
None of them want to f me, so...
But yeah, it's just, again, you're in a vulnerable place and people love to take advantage of vulnerable people.
Yep.
I also thought $17 an hour would be a ton of money, but I ended up struggling to get by on it and continued to revel in my bitterness. I didn't have money to go out, so I sat around my room and went online. I found myself increasingly resentful of all the women I'd see online. I told myself they were all stuck-up bitches and needed to be taken down a peg. I would leave them nasty comments on social media and felt like I was getting revenge on them.
Yeah, that I could tell you firsthand. Every time I get a horrible comment from a man, my first thought is, man, this really hits home in me. No, I block them. I don't care. You guys are wasting your breath. But
I
that's
know.
neither here nor
Well,
there.
and I usually sometimes it does feel shitty and bad, but I also am usually like, wow, you're probably sad.
Miserable.
Yeah.
And also,
Probably
like,
sad.
not to like toot my own horn, but they always try to attack women's features. And I'm like, when you grow up ugly, you find that you are much more like in tune with my personality. So to call me ugly, brother, I've been getting that since I was like 10. You know what I mean?
You think you can hurt me?
Be more creative.
Imagine my shock when I was unexpectedly let go from my job. Thanks to my months-long spree of harassing women online, I got doxxed and someone had sent my comments to my employer. Now I was completely screwed. I had no savings, no income, and nowhere to live.
So, like, actions have consequences, but on the same time, that's like almost self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, these women take away my job. This does this. This does this. That's a really hard situation and mindset to break out of.
All I got to say is look around and find out.
Yeah, I mean, I've doxed a man before. I'd do it again.
In the months since I'd moved out of my mom's house, she had sold it and moved upstate to take care of my grandmother. So the only other family I had in town was my older sister and her husband. In my mind, my sister was the last person I wanted to ask for help. She was a woke liberal feminist, and I felt like people like her were to blame for my predicament. I also had nowhere else to go, so I swallowed my pride and asked her if I could stay with her while I looked for a new job. My sister was like, you can stay with us, but no watching your manosphere bullshit in our house and no harassing women online. I had no other options, so I agreed. I love that his sister is like, I know what you get up to.
Yeah. She's
Who
like,
do you think helped them dox you?
Yeah.
I was sure this would only be a very short term anyway. Staying with my sister presented a real challenge to my worldview because she and her husband were the living embodiment of everything I'd been told was terrible. My sister had a career, but she also has a husband. She wasn't the ugly cat lady stereotype I associated with feminists. She did cooking and cleaning, but so did my brother-in-law. They took turns with meal prep and shared chores in and around the house. When I'd see my brother-in-law do stuff like laundry or cooking, I tried to needle him about how he was doing woman chores. Gabe.
I'm really grateful that I never had to have a conversation like this with my boyfriend. He just does laundry and he does things like, I'm like, yeah, thank God, thank God, thank God. Bare minimum, but thank God.
But he was not having it. Anytime I tried to give him grief, he'd refute whatever I was saying, and it was getting harder and harder to argue with him. He had a wife, a career, and a house. I had nothing. He'd gotten everything by being the opposite of what I thought men were supposed to be like.
Bingo.
Wow.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
It's almost like there's no one way of being in a gender.
But also,
Yeah.
there's a wrong way of being a man.
The other difficulty with trying to insult my brother-in-law is that he didn't fit the stereotype I'd been taught about woke men. He had a decidedly masculine job as an electrician. He works out. He goes fishing on the weekends. He is brilliant at all kinds of repair work. He knows how to fix cars and stuff around the house. I was jealous as hell, but it also made no sense to me that a guy like him was perfectly happy making dinner or running errands for my sister. Staying with the two of them and seeing their lives up close was really starting to mess with my worldview.
The golden rule, in Christianity, Catholicism, or whatever, is do unto others as you want them to do unto you. And I feel like this is a very good example of if you just treat people with respect and you're nice to them and you're willing to work with them and not just assume that all left-leaning men are fucking cooks and betas and all this stuff, and all women have to be folding laundry, cooking meals, and all that stuff. Like, it'd be crazy how better off your life will be.
Yeah.
You know?
Months went by, and I'd only managed to pick up a part-time fast food job that I hated. Anytime I got turned down for a better job, I was convinced I was being discriminated against for being a straight white man.
DEI. Didn't earn it.
I also had to be careful complaining around my sister and brother-in-law because I knew I was on thin ice with them. After several months of getting nowhere with my job search and feeling sorry for myself, I asked my brother-in-law how he got his job and if he could help me get one. He explained about trade school and apprenticeship. It's a good job, but not one I'd be able to get tomorrow. I started to complain again, but clearly fed up with me, he cut me off and was like, I will help you get a job, but in exchange, you need to commit to real self-improvement. Not this right-wing podcast shit, real self-improvement. No more moping around here feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to start listening to the podcasts I recommend. No more of this Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate or whatever the hell you've been listening to. You're going to come to the gym with me. You're going to quit bitching about the woke mind virus and take responsibility for your own problems. No more spending hours on the internet. No commenting on social media at all. You need to get offline and live in the real world. And if I find out you're up to any of your old bullshit or saying any more gross things about women or feminists, you are out. You are on your own. No more help from us. No more staying with us. Your sister and I are completely sick of this shit, and you need to grow the fuck up. I didn't even want you moving in because I knew you'd just mope around here and not take any responsibility for yourself and annoy the hell out of me. I only said yes to make your sister happy. If you want our help, you need to start listening to us and respecting us.
Oh, so a woman advocated for him, and that's why, that's funny how that happens.
Shocking. No one had ever been that blunt with me or offered to really help me turn my life around either. My sister gave me a reading list of books I very much didn't want to read, but I wanted their help, so I agreed to read her books. I stopped going online and basically turned my life over to my sister and brother-in-law, doing whatever they said. I hated all of it at first, but I wanted so badly to be more like my brother-in-law and less like me that I knew I had to just surrender and make a serious effort to learn from him. My dad left when I was little, and my brother-in-law was the first male role model I knew in real life who was taking any interest in me. Much to my surprise, I gradually started feeling less depressed and angry at the world. I was working with my hands during the day and learning new things. I was even making friends at my new job, and my brother-in-law was letting me tag along with him and his buddies on the weekends to go fishing and work out. I was even losing weight. I had always been a chubby kid, and doing physical activity instead of hanging out online was getting me in shape. I was learning about construction, weight training, fixing things, everything I thought of as manly, but from my woke brother-in-law. My worldview started changing to be more like his. I also started learning to do other things around the house, like cooking and cleaning. My brother-in-law was like, there are no man chores or woman chores, just chores, and you need to learn them all so you can be self-reliant. I feel like this is like also, be self-reliant. Like, I feel like men are who are like, I'm like, what, you can't like clean?
Yeah.
What? How, like, you're an incomplete human.
Oh, but my mom didn't teach me, so.
Yeah, like, what? And if you ever want a wife, she is going to want you to help around the house. You can't expect her to do everything for you. Your wife isn't your mom. Being a full partner is part of being a real man. I'm still early in my new career path. I finally got an apprenticeship and am about halfway through my first year. Looking back to when I first came to stay at my sister's house, I feel like I've become a totally different and better person. I know I am really lucky I had a good influence in my life who helped me get my shit together. I could have very easily stayed miserable and doing the same thing forever. I don't think I would have turned my life around without my brother-in-law's guidance, and I know I owe him a ton. He didn't have to help me, and I am so thankful he did.
Hell yeah.
I am too. And I'm sure the women that you harassed online are as well.
I would like you to go back and personally apologize to every single one.
Consider it. Our final story is from Paul, and it's what life experience drastically changed your thinking on something from the original deck. Becoming a stay-at-home dad helped me discover my passion for opera singing.
Whoa. I was expecting like, you know, when I see all these DIY dad videos where they like become these amateur like architects or things like that. That opera singing is, I'm really intrigued.
I mean, I guess when you're raising the kids and there's no one else there and they're babies, you know, you're like, what are they going to say?
What are they going to say?
What are they gonna
You
say?
don't like my singing? Tough it.
Growing up, I was taught that it is a man's responsibility to financially provide for his family. I am the youngest of 5 boys, and my family is extremely conservative. My dad worked and my mom stayed at home. I believe this was the natural order of things and had many other conservative values until I went to college and had my eyes open to other ways of life. The liberal university system corrupted my mind, as my dad and brothers would probably say.
Yeah.
Education, it's a disease.
The woke mindset just means you probably got a degree.
I studied business in college, a respectable masculine degree in my father's eyes, and got a well-paying job after school. Even though I was making good money, I was miserable. I hated going into the office every day, hated being stuck in a cubicle, and hated that my life seemed to revolve around this company that didn't matter to me at all. But I was led to believe that this was the way life was supposed to be. Even though my views were more liberal, those conservative values still had a stronghold on me. Then, when I was 28, I met my wife through OkCupid. We hit it off pretty quickly, and I admired her ambition. She was working in environmental law and absolutely loved it. When it came to work, she was everything I wanted to be but wasn't. After dating for 1.5 years, we got married, and 2 years later, we had our daughter. I love being a father. I got a week of paternity leave, and after that, I was back in the office.
That's it?
A week? What? I thought you at least
This is such a real thought I've been having because women usually only get maybe up to 3 months of maternity leave. Mm-hmm. What do you do with the it still can't take care of itself.
Yeah.
So what do you do with it?
Take care of it?
No, but you have a job.
When you go back, absolutely.
Well, I mean, Republicans say, especially J.D. Vance, he says all you need is to have grandma come over and take care of it. It's like, wow,
But if grandma has a job.
the privilege of assuming that somebody has a grandma.
Yeah,
living.
maybe the woman should quit her job.
Yeah.
But all day I would think about what my daughter was doing at home with my wife, who had 6 months of leave. Still not a lot.
Yeah.
No, they're still not self-sufficient at 6 months, you guys.
I mean, in the UK and other places, it's 12 months, and it's not a corporate company policy. It's a countrywide policy.
My job became even more unbearable, and I wanted nothing more than to quit. But my father's voice was still in my head, telling me the only way to be a good dad was to make money and provide for my family, even though my wife was making close to double my salary. Something my brothers regularly like to tease me about, as if having a wife who makes money is a bad thing.
Oh, look at you being financially stable.
Oh, look at you doing
Sounds like she's smart.
My wife, on the other hand, was having an entirely different experience. She loves our daughter, of course, and loved being with her, but was feeling antsy at home. She couldn't wait to return to work and was still frequently checking in and seeing how things were going. As the end of her maternity leave neared, we began to discuss nannies. I wasn't excited to have someone else coming over to be with my daughter, but I knew it was what we needed to do. I wasn't going to ask my wife to quit her job, and I still thought I wasn't allowed to. Then my wife approached me one evening with a proposal. She said she was looking at how much our preferred nanny would cost and gently suggested that it might make more sense for me to stay with her if I wanted to. I wasn't sure at first. On one hand, that sounded wonderful, but on the other, I didn't want it to make me less of a man. I could hear the teasing from my dad and brothers already. She told me to think about it, and I did. A whole 2 hours into my next shift at work, I was like, I hate this. What am I doing here? I need to quit and be a stay-at-home dad. So that's exactly what I did. Being a stay-at-home parent is extremely challenging, but also very rewarding. It was more work than I ever had in the office, but I loved it so much. One of my favorite things about it was singing to my daughter. I had read that music was supposed to help with brain development, so I'd put on different songs, usually classical, and sing along. One evening, I was doing a particularly passionate performance of Nessun Dorma while giving my daughter a bath when my wife came home. After I finished the song, I noticed she was standing outside the bathroom, listening and smiling. I felt embarrassed at first, but then she told me how incredible I sounded. I had no idea you were good at singing. Did you take lessons? No, I responded sheepishly. suddenly remembering that I had wanted to join choir in high school, but my brothers had told me choir was gay, so I played baseball instead.
Do you know how many women want to people on Broadway? Do you know how many men get puss from being on Broadway? Do you even know? Anyway.
Women love an artsy man.
Women love a non-toxic, talented, creative, driven man.
Anyway, with my wife's encouragement, I actually ended up signing up for vocal lessons in the evenings when my wife was home from work. I fell in love with opera singing and eventually joined a local choral group. This community of people has brought me more joy than any office job ever has, but I don't think I would have learned about this passion of mine if I hadn't quit my job and become a stay-at-home dad. When I finally started doing this, my dad and brothers of course made fun of me relentlessly, but I can tell they are just jealous because they are stuck living their miserable, manly lives. Maybe if they branched out and found their passion, they would spend less time worrying about mine. Toxic masculinity. It's not good. Like the patriarchy, obviously women talk about it a lot, but it hurts men so much.
And they don't understand why. And they're like, well, men suffer more. You set that system up. Mm-hmm. None of us are happy.
No.
But it's also the fact of like all of these, manosphere and alpha male and all this stuff. They're always like, you got to be unique. You got to be your own. You got to do this. But if you really look at it, it's all not being unique. It's all being the same. You got to do this, do that, go here, eat this, drink this. Like you're doing the same thing. You're looking the same way. You're dressed the same way. You're in a cult.
What would it be like if you followed like your own personal passions? That's the only way to truly be unique.
Right. Isn't that the whole point? You want to be unique. Don't do what other people do.
Yeah.
Duh.
Follow your dreams. And there's no like gendered, there's no gendered chores. There's no gendered hobbies. Yeah. Do what makes you happy. That is it for Delve Deck Stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, you can like, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. And if you have a story you would like to share with us, you can go to share.delvedeck.com and we might read it on an episode.